Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tea Martini. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having an amazing day. If you came this week to listen to me rant about my landlords, rant about work, or rant about the stress around university group work, then I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this is not what you're going to get. This entire week, I've been thinking if I should even mention this thing here on the podcast, like in a passing of an episode, let alone create an entire episode devoted to it. And I was trying my best to distract myself and come up with something entertaining, something lighthearted, and something to distract both you and me from the reality that we currently live in. But I cannot, because this thing is consuming my entire existence. It is constantly the thing I keep replaying in my head over and over again every single day. I go to bed thinking about this. I wake up thinking about this. I have dream about it. It is just all consuming. And it simply doesn't feel right to brush it off lightly and ignore the elephant in the room, which is why I'm not going to do it. In particular, what I'm referring to is the outcome of the US elections. I know that this is a very heated topic, and maybe this week will be the last episode some of you listen to of this podcast ever, because maybe some of you disagree with me. And that is okay. I'm not going to try to instill my views and opinions on you, but I feel like I will not be able to live with myself if I didn't speak up. And what I'm particularly referring to when I want to talk about the outcome of these elections is not economy and climate. I'm not going to even touch upon the rights of immigrants, people of color, and queer people who will be directly affected when the president-elect steps into office. And before you raise your finger, let me explain why I'm not going to focus on these communities. The reason I'm not going to touch upon these things in this episode is because I don't think as someone who is a straight, white, cis woman, am entitled to speak on behalf of these communities. I cannot fully comprehend and understand the emotional and beyond emotional aspects of their existence. I will let them tell their own story because I don't want to take away their voice. I don't want to feed and nourish the narrative of your story being told by someone else. I want you to share your own story, share your own emotions, share your own fears, share your own experiences. I think their stories matter, and I think their stories and in this political climate are extremely crucial and should be brought to the forefront. And I'm here to be supportive in any way, all the way. I'm here to leave space for their own stories, and I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to uplift them in any way I can. And I'm praying that their voices do not simply ricochet off of a wall, but actually reach human beings. What I want to focus on today and express my anger towards is the female experience. I want to try and articulate my female rage that has been brewing up for so long and that reached a new level when that particular person was elected president. But I think it is important to preface this. I usually avoid talking politics here because I know how politics is an extremely sensitive subject and how it is a subject that divides people into literal camps, and how if someone does not belong to your camp, you see them as the enemy. I don't want this for this podcast. I want everybody to feel welcome, and I want everybody to feel included. I don't want us to be divided. I don't want us to feel threatened. I don't want us to feel unwanted. I want this place to be a place for entertainment, for relaxation, and every now and then media education. I want this place to be a place that nourishes unity, a place that nourishes community, and a place that nourishes the spectrum, be it cultural, be it political, religious, sensorial, social, or whatever other planes that our human existence actually embodies. I am fully aware that politics and life in general are not monochrome. And I don't want to diminish them to such, because they are not binary. They are multi-layered. And I feel like I want this place, I want Dirty Martini to be a comfort zone for everybody, no matter which end of the spectrum they belong to, no matter their cultural, political, economic, geographical, social background. I don't want this podcast to be a place of division. I welcome people from all backgrounds, all political views, and people with different belief systems, because I don't want to foster division. Division is not the solution. At the same time, I want this place to be a place in which I'm truthful to myself, which means that I cannot, for the sake of being transparent and truthful, I cannot be a political chameleon. I cannot bend over backwards to enable the invasion of things I do not believe in. I cannot be objective, and I have never claimed, nor will I claim to be objective, because I am the product of my environment. And in this moment, in this environment that is being globally, anxiously awaited, I cannot and I should not bite my tongue and forcibly be dismissive towards something that I see as morally and humanly wrong. Because I don't want this place to nourish division, but I don't want it to tolerate and close its eyes in the face of misogyny. I am a woman, and I am proud to be a woman. I feel like this is an amazing blessing that sometimes certain people darken with their outdated ideologies. Ideologies which manipulate and twist religion and tradition and structures in the attempt to turn this blessing into a curse. I cannot sit in silence when millions of women in America are currently crying, and when women in Afghanistan are not even allowed to make a sound, and when potentially the age of consent in Iraq will be lowered to 9 years old. I cannot and I must not sit on the sidelines. And I keep asking myself, politics aside, why does the world hate women so much? Why do you feel so threatened by us that you feel you must control us? Why do you think we're so disruptive to your life? Why do you treat us as objects, as property? Why don't you treat us as human beings? Why? So you can have your political beliefs, you can have your religious beliefs, but you can still look at the situations at hand and recognize their irrationality, their backwardness, and their dehumanizing nature. This is pain that is inflicted not only upon the millions of people affected by it directly, it is pain inflicted on all of us, men, women, and everyone in between these two gender identities and beyond these two gender identities. And it physically pains me to see not only certain people dismissing the importance of this election season, but also celebrating the outcome. It pains me to see people coming to me being like, why do you care so much? You know what? I really wish that this didn't bother me. I really wish I didn't care. I really wish that this did not affect me, and I really wish I could continue living as if it didn't happen. But I cannot, and I don't want to. And this is not about being quote-unquote woke. It is about being a human. It is about being empathetic. It is about recognizing what is morally and humanly wrong and right in the many nuances of politics and in the many nuances of the human existence. Because this outcome has the potential to undo the progress of millions, even billions of women across the world, across history, who over the centuries fought with their lives for their existential right to be treated as humans, not as accessories to the life of men who go around chanting disgusting mantras like, your body, our choice. That one brain-celled individual speech that is going viral right now about how it will always and forever be women's bodies but men's choice, how there will never be a female president, and how there never will be the chance for us women to break through the glass ceiling because the ceiling is made out of brick, and that we will never ever have the opportunity to break free. So that particular rant shook me to my core. And hearing this so clearly articulated made me yet again realize how much hatred actually exists in this world. And it really exemplified the misogynistic nature of the 21st century. A nature that has been nourished for centuries. A nature that women have been trying to fight against for centuries. And the result of these elections broke my heart because it ended the work of women around the world, the work of women across history. Because let me tell you something, it will never, ever be anyone's choice but mine when it comes to my own body. And I'm sick and tired of women haters being gifted the power to rule over us. And I'm extremely distraught by the fact that devoted misogynists are uplifted. Devoted misogynists who are driven by the motivation to have power not for the greater good and to use that power to uplift others, but to use that power to bring women down. And before anybody labels me a misandrist, let me make one thing clear. I do not hate men. I fully recognize that it is not all men. I extremely very much appreciate and respect men who are decent human beings, who are men enough to support women, but I cannot pretend that those rotten apples of society are not leaving a bad taste, like a bad aftertaste of what it is to be a woman in the 21st century. And I hope and I pray that every woman in those trying times has someone to turn to for help, has someone to turn to for comfort, has someone to turn to cry, has someone to turn to scream, has someone to turn to who will let her be scared, has someone to turn to who will validate her existence and not diminish her importance. I pray that every woman has someone who will treat her like the human being she is. The reason I'm choosing to talk about this today, to speak up, to use my voice while I still have it, because women in Afghanistan are deprived of this extremely basic human right to use your voice. So the reason I'm choosing to talk about this and to make Dirty Martini a political space is because why should my platform be a non-political ground when apparently a woman's body is a political ground? Why should I avoid talking about politics in order to accommodate people when politics is not making even a minimum effort to accommodate the people it is supposed to serve? I feel like it is really important for me to point out that I have my own understandings of what I want and hope for, not only for myself, but for the world. I have my own understandings of right and wrong, and I have my own system of values, my own system of morals. And while I'm trying to be respectful and recognize and not be dismissive towards different political views, I don't think I can bend my moral compass. And I don't really think that I should. It is like I can respect other people's political views and opinions, even if they're totally oppositional to those I hold. But it is very difficult for me to tolerate the disrespect towards the human existence. It is difficult for me to accommodate, and I don't think I should accommodate different moral views, especially when those moral views overrule basic human rights and the validity of the female existence. Because agree to disagree is a valid conclusion when we're talking about whether chocolate or vanilla is the superior ice cream flavor, not when we're talking about basic human rights. I have very strong opinions about the results of these elections, even though I am a European, even though this is not my country's politics, even though the change of national policies will not personally affect me directly. I have my own opinions, I have my own beliefs, and if yours are not aligning with mine, I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to try to convince you because I don't think it is my job. I don't think it is my duty. I don't think it is my purpose. And I don't think it is my responsibility to go out and teach people why the human existence matters and should be respected, why stripping away people's human rights is not okay, and why neglecting the importance of pressing issues with regards to emancipation, equality, equity, and opportunities is not okay. So I will urge you to do your own research. I have done mine, and I have made my opinions, and I have strengthened my beliefs. And I am full of female rage, and I'm experiencing female rage like never before. On that note, I urge you also not to use this podcast as the ground on which to build your beliefs, build your understandings, opinions, and views. I don't feel knowledgeable enough and well-versed enough to talk about politics, but as a woman, I cannot deny and I cannot ignore the fear that has been growing in me since the outcome of those elections. And my heart goes out to every single person whose life will be directly or indirectly affected by these elections. And I really wish things were different, but unfortunately they're not. And we have to accept it. That doesn't mean that we stop fighting. And if you want to have this conversation with me, feel free to reach out. I am willing to listen to you. I am willing to have a respectful conversation, because no matter how much we try to ignore the problem, we're not going to make it disappear. And in fact, we should not avoid this problem. We should speak up and we should fight for its resolution. And I feel like this is the time we urge ourselves and we urge the people around us to get as educated as possible, to get as informed as possible, to become as critical as possible, to use our analytical skills as much as we can to the best of our abilities, and to stick together to overcome the upcoming hurdles, whatever they are. This week, I'm experiencing immense grief. I am grieving women. Because the US elections, I think, embodied a really symbolic narrative that men feel entitled to rule women's bodies and existence. That men feel entitled to define women's existence. I don't want to ever in my life hear again that sexual assault allegations will ruin a man's life. Because a convicted felon, a sexual predator, was elected by the majority of people to occupy the most powerful position in the most powerful country in the world. And while I'm struggling to grasp why people voted the way they did, I cannot help but also feel an immense sense of inequality. His opponent was, I believe, far more qualified for the position. I'm not saying that she was an angel. There are, of course, policies and statements of hers that I do not align with and that I disagree with very much. But still, I believe she's far more fit for the position, even if this belief is simply based on the fact that she was not actively trying to deprive people from their rights and establish legislations which would command how they exercise their bodily autonomy if they're legally entitled to it. So I am disappointed because I feel like women were yet again let down and the door to equality, equity, cerebral opportunities, and freedom was yet again shut in our face. And I cannot help but feel empathy, and I cannot help but feel enraged. Because as a woman, you have to fight 10 times harder to succeed. You have to fight to prove why you deserve to exist. And you have to fight to prove why you deserve to exist in male spaces. And why you deserve to be heard. Why you deserve to be listened to. And simply why you deserve to live. There's no denying it. I am privileged in the sense that my skin is white. And I cannot speak, and I should not speak on behalf of women of color, but I definitely have seen and have listened to stories of how if I have to fight 10 times harder to prove that I deserve to exist, then they have to fight 30 or 40 times harder. And unfortunately, despite all the progress we've been earning over the years, the underlying force that makes the world spin is still very much driven by racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, misogyny, and xenophobia. As a woman, I feel extremely defeated by the outcome of these elections because they yet again show that the conservative, outdated, detrimental to a progressive society views and rules of the patriarchy are still very much present. And here's the thing. Feminism is not created to hurt men. Feminism is not a dirty word. Feminism is a movement established to uplift everybody. Don't ever confuse feminism with misandry. Feminism, it is not a hate movement. It does not aim to strip down men from their rights. It fights for equality and equity. It recognizes differences and celebrates them. It does not fight for the stance that women are more than men. It does not aim to lesser and diminish the importance of a particular sex or a particular gender appropriation with regards to others. And I'm so sick and tired of constantly having to live despite the notions that are trying to bring women down. Bring us down culturally, politically, socially, economically, physically, religiously, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. I am so sick and tired and repulsed by having to constantly explain why I matter. And while just because I have ovaries and a uterus does not mean that I am inferior. That just because I am quote unquote hormonal, I can still be level-headed and I can still be a productive contributor to society. And it is extremely tiring that women all around the world have to constantly explain the terror we experience on the daily. The most mundane, quote-unquote, thing being not being able to walk alone at night without being scared, being afraid to speak up, brushing off harassment and misogyny and sexism for the sake of purely physical survival. I am sick and tired of having to explain why the things that are globally done to women are not okay. I'm so sick and tired of having to constantly scream and cry for equity and my voice to just be unheard in a desert of ignorance. But I will not give up. And women, we're not giving up. We will fight with nails and teeth until we are treated as humans. This political state, not of the US only, but the one that has been globally trying to sneak in and undo the progress of the modern person, this political state is creating division. It is creating hatred, and it is creating an environment in which cohabitation and coexistence are becoming more and more difficult. I'm extremely disappointed by humanity right now. And it is very difficult to stay hopeful and lift up your spirits in an environment that is trying to dim your light, that is trying to break you, that is trying to erase you. And I haven't stopped crying for every single American woman that will be directly affected by the outcome of the elections. I know maybe some of you are thinking, you're European, you're not American. Why do you care? Why are you so invested? Why are you letting it affect you in that way? Yes, my passport may be European, but my heart is not bound to the borders of Bulgaria. My heart is not bound to the borders of Europe. My feelings and my empathy and my sorrow currently know no borders. So that's why I care. Because I feel like the elections were yet again another example, yet again another very extremely symbolic example of what it is to be a woman and the hardships we face in our attempts to be heard when our screams and our cries for help are reaching only deaf ears. And while I may not be a US citizen, I am still a person, and I'm still a woman, and my heart aches for all women in the United States. My heart aches for humanity. My heart aches for the US women who didn't want the president-elect to be elected, and for those who did vote for that particular president-elect without maybe fully grasping the consequences that their immediate personal lives will have to endure. And I cannot imagine what American women are feeling, what women of color, what immigrant women who live in the US are feeling, what queer people in the US are feeling. Because if I'm so geographically and culturally distanced from that environment, and I feel this level of anxiety, I cannot imagine what it must be like to wake up in the epicenter of it all. So I'm always here to listen to you. I'm always here to have the conversations. I'm always here to support you, and I will pray for your well-being. And I will hope that this does not eradicate the societal progress that women, men, and everyone in between and outside this binary gender system have been fighting for. I cannot name anything more repulsive than a fragile male ego that is so deeply hurt by a woman who exercises her human right to be an individual, to be a part of a community, to be self-sufficient, to fearlessly occupy male spaces, to write and rewrite and change and create history, to nurture, to destroy, to give, to take, to be a boss, to be angry, to be happy, to love, to hate, to be mindful and be reckless, to be educated and outspoken, to be honest, to succeed, to fail, to be a fighter, to be a mother, to be a daughter, to be a sister. I cannot name anything more repulsive than a fragile male ego that is so deeply hurt by a woman who exercises her human right to simply exist. So to every single American woman who's listening to this, I just want you to know you're not alone. The rest of the world is crying with you. We're empathetic, and I feel like girlhood and womanhood have never been stronger globally in my lifetime. We all mourn the loss of your basic human rights. We feel it as a personal loss. We feel the backwardness of the situation, and we are here for you to hold your hand, to soak your tears, and to be by your side when the people who are supposed to protect you put in the great effort to hurt you. Because this problem is not only an America problem. This problem is a humanity problem. It is a humanity crisis. Undoing all this progress, stripping women down of their human rights, affects all of us globally, and it is not limited to those 50 states. It is not limited to Iraq or Afghanistan. It affects you, it affects me, and it affects every single person on this planet, because this sets, or maybe to put it more correctly, it continues the tone of what is acceptable, of who is in control and who is controllable. It sets the narrative of what the 21st century not only could, but apparently the majority of people want it to look like. So to my fellow sisters, near and far, I'm sorry. It makes me sick to my stomach that this is what your future will look like. And it fills me with such anger and such sadness that you have been disrespected and dehumanized in such a way that the control of your body is no longer yours. That your independence and freedom were taken away from you. I am so deeply sorry. Please never give up. I know this is not just a single step back. This is a massive socio-cultural setback. I promise you that one day, the day will come when your bodily autonomy will be reinstated. And yes, dark days may be ahead, but don't ever lose the guiding light of hope. Don't ever lose the guiding light of the promise for a better tomorrow. Don't ever lose the guiding light of a better humanity. With that being said, it will always and forever be my body, my choice, one way or another. Goodbye.